All right, today we are diving deep into the dark and twisted saga of Jeffrey Epstein. It's a story about unimaginable wealth, about incredible power, and about a horrifying criminal network that stretched all the way to the highest levels of society. When you really boil it all down, this whole story revolves around three things: a secluded, private island that became a playground for unspeakable crimes, the predator who ran the whole show, and the web of incredibly powerful people that let him get away with it for decades.
And the absolute epicenter of his crimes, the heart of this whole dark operation, was one location, a private island in the Caribbean called Little St. James, but the world would soon know it by a much more infamous name: Epstein Island.
You see, this island really had two completely different faces. On the surface, it was this 72-acre luxury paradise, with private resorts, docks, even a cinema. But underneath all that, there was a much more sinister side. Investigators uncovered this strange temple-like building, a network of secret underground tunnels, and CCTV cameras watching every single inch of the property. So you have to ask, was all that for security, or was it for blackmail?
This island was really just a reflection of its owner, a man of immense wealth and even darker secrets. So that begs the question, who exactly was Jeffrey Epstein?
To really get a grip on the crime, you have to understand the criminal. Epstein's journey from a pretty humble background to the absolute peak of power is just as mysterious as it is shocking.
His rise was just meteoric. He starts out in the 1970s as a math teacher, but then he somehow pivots to Wall Street. His big break, the thing that really launched him, was getting in with billionaires like Leslie Wexner, the owner of Victoria's Secret. And that allowed him to build his own personal kingdom. The largest private mansion in Manhattan, a massive 75,000-acre ranch, and of course that private island.
But here's the thing. All that money, all that property, that wasn't his real source of power. No, Epstein's true currency was something way more valuable: his connections to some of the most powerful people on the entire planet.
And this network, this is where the story gets really, truly disturbing. We're talking about a literal who's who of global power players.
And one of the most prominent names connected to Epstein was the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton.
Just look at the flight logs. They revealed that Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet, which had the notorious nickname the Lolita Express, a staggering 26 times. That included international trips. This wasn't some casual acquaintance. This was a close association.
And the scandal didn't stop there. It reached all the way across the Atlantic, right into the British royal family with Prince Andrew.
The allegation against him was just devastating. A victim, Virginia Giuffre, accused him of abusing her when she was just 17 years old. The fallout from that was immense. It forced Prince Andrew to completely abandon his royal duties and pay out millions of dollars in an out-of-court settlement.
Which all leads to the central question about this whole network. How in the world did a guy like Epstein maintain these kinds of relationships with people this powerful? Was it really just friendship, or was something much more coercive going on?
And that blackmail theory? Well, it gained a lot of steam based on what the FBI actually found. When they raided his properties, they uncovered this huge collection of CDs and photos, many with inappropriate images of prominent people. And they also found those meticulous flight logs. The implication was pretty clear. A lot of people believe he was systematically collecting dirt on his powerful guests.
For years, this system of power and influence did exactly what it was designed to do. It protected Epstein. It let him dodge justice time and time again, even when his crimes first started to come out into the open. The fight for justice was just incredibly long and frustrating. It really began back in 2005 when the first victim bravely filed a police report. But then, in 2008, Epstein gets this secret, unbelievably lenient sweetheart deal where he barely served any real time. It wasn't until a decade later, in 2018, when reporting from journalist Julie K. Brown blew the lid off that corrupt deal, that public outrage finally forced his rearrest in 2019.
So the two masterminds at the center of this ring, they met very different fates. Epstein died in his cell, completely escaping a trial. But his main accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the key recruiter of young girls, she was held accountable. She was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for her central role in the whole trafficking operation.
But Epstein's death didn't close the book on this story, not even close. In fact, it just ripped open the most perplexing chapter of all, turning his final days into this huge, unsolved mystery.
The official story is that he died by suicide, but the circumstances around his death in what's supposed to be one of the most secure jails in America have led to one massive, persistent question. Was he silenced?
I mean, just consider the facts of that night. The security cameras right outside his cell supposedly malfunctioned. The 2 guards assigned to watch him were allegedly asleep and later admitted to faking their logs. He had just been taken off suicide watch, and maybe the biggest red flag of all, he died right before he could go to trial, where everyone expected him to start naming names.
Which brings us to where we are today. Because while some documents have been unsealed, there is a mountain of information that is still hidden. We're talking about over 1 million pages of documents related to this case that are still completely sealed, locked away from public view.
And that leaves all of us with the final, deeply unsettling question. Jeffrey Epstein is gone, but the system that allowed him to operate for so long is still very much in place. And with so much information still hidden under lock and key, you really have to wonder, whose secrets are still being protected?